Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of GLI Live. Today we're not so live. We've had some technical difficulties, and so you'll be, hopefully if you're watching this, we have overcome those difficulties and you are watching the show now, so welcome. So clearly this episode is about masks. So I'm Donna Cryer. I am the founder and CEO of the Global Liver Institute. I am your host. Welcome to my home, and I hope you are home safe and sound and healthy through this COVID-19 pandemic. I hope you're practicing social distancing, hand washing, and wearing your masks when you need to go out for vital tasks. Today's episode is called Meet the Masks Makers, and so I have two fantastic guests who have been at the forefront of this movement to make sure that all of us could keep ourselves safe during this pandemic, and that we can keep others safe from contracting a COVID-19 infection. So I have with us Belle Kambach, professor, traveler, patient, and alum of the Global Liver Institute's Advanced Advocacy Academy. Welcome, Belle, in her fabulous mask. The mask I was wearing moments ago was also made by Belle, and I'll put it on again in a moment. And then Tina Sue. Tina is a lawyer, a Renaissance woman, fantastic mom, community advocate. I'm privileged to call her my friend for a very long time, and I'm very excited to have her on the show today. And so, for those of you who are wondering why everybody all of a sudden is wearing masks, wondering where you can get one, we're going to answer those questions. So the Centers for Disease Control and a lot of public health officials have been evolving over the course of this pandemic in terms of their recommendations about who should wear a mask and what type of mask. We've seen shortages, certainly, of the N95 masks that are needed by healthcare workers. And it's called N95 because they are made to filter out 95% of infectious particles. For the general public, those who are not on the front lines of caring for patients, the recommendations have been evolving. First, they were wear them if you feel that you have symptoms. So if you're sick or if you're caring for a sick person, and the purpose is to really prevent you, if you have an infection, of passing that infection throughout others by containing your droplets and your aerosolized versions of the infection as you breathe and talk, keeping those from getting to people. And the information has evolved, particularly because around the world and increasingly in the US, we just don't know who has the infection. In fact, up to 50% of people may be infected but asymptomatic, so not having a fever or a cough or an active manifestation of the disease. And so in an environment where anybody could be infected, the advice moved to having everyone to wear a mask. And so that's what happened in the US last Friday. But the question I think a lot of people had on their minds was, where do I get a mask all of a sudden? Everybody is required to wear one all of a sudden. Where do I get one? And so we have our guests today who have been making them and providing them for people. I think we may have lost one of our guests, but we have Tina with us still. So Tina, what inspired you to make masks? How'd you start?
Well, I'm just generally a crafter. I like to make things with my hands. I knit, I crochet, I sew. And so I saw the looming crisis and decided, I can probably make some of these, make some for my family and see how it goes. And so I went online. It's probably about, I think the first mask I made was like March 14th. And I looked online, looked for a couple of patterns and tried some out, and started sending them to some family, and really thought that was going to be it. And then I thought, well, I've got some friends who want them. Maybe I should make them for my friends as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of exploded from there because, my friends I have wonderful friends who were saying, let me help you out and maybe you can make more for other people and make
Mm-hmm.
them for healthcare workers and other people who are on the front line. So, gosh, it's been about a month now and I've made maybe over 250 masks.
Wow.
And they've gone to healthcare workers like nurses and
Mm-hmm.
doctors, people who work in hospitals, work in healthcare
Mm-hmm.
environments where they might not be the frontline workers, but they're
Mm-hmm.
certainly, vulnerable to exposure.
Right.
People who are volunteers for organizations that continue to provide services that are so needed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteers doing food bank work or who are doing deliveries to elderly neighbors who, should be leaving their homes. I've given some to Safeway workers and staff people at nursing homes, just a wide range of people who have suddenly realized that they need them. And, and it's a little overwhelming because obviously now we're at the point where everyone is supposed to be wearing them and
Right.
there's not enough hours in a day to cover the needs of everyone. But thankfully in DC and all across the country, there's been a huge uprising by other people who sew.
Mm-hmm.
And sewists across the country have been trying to meet the demand.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see different groups around the country like Million Mask Challenge, or here in DC, we have the Washington, DC mask sewing, Rosie the seamstress. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different groups that have banded together, shared best practices, the patterns that have worked. They've taken the time to talk to doctors, nurses, hospital workers to find out what works, and people are making thousands, hundreds of thousands of masks and donating them, giving them away. It's really kind of overwhelming how much things have developed even in just the last month.
Absolutely. So you made reference to, so the A Million Masks Challenge and to, the Rosie the seamstress was a reference to sort of Rosie the riveter. People have equated this to World War II efforts like victory gardens, to be able to, where people during World War II, were gardening and making their own fruits and vegetables and canning them so that the food could go to the front lines of the war efforts. And so this is, a sort of similar movement and a sort of a public support of what we are all in together.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of overwhelming. It's heartwarming. It's fantastic. But there's also the dark side of it is that we don't have these masks that as you said, the N95, the surgical masks, medical grade masks available to our healthcare workers. So it is, a wonderful movement, but it is also kind of sad because it is, it's not what we should be doing, but it's thankfully what people are doing.
Yes. This is Belle coming back in. And so hopefully we'll be able to see her in a moment. No.
So while you're waiting, I can show you a couple of different masks that
Thank you.
There's, I've got this mask, which is, if you go online, it's called the Craft Passion pattern. It's a little bit more fitted and you can do it with elastic, but you can also sew ties onto them. And one of the benefits of ties, talk to some healthcare workers that have said that masks that tie on can be customized or made tighter for use. And the benefit is also that it's, when you tie it onto the back of the head, you don't have elastic fatigue.
Rubbing on your ears.
A lot of the healthcare workers are wearing these masks all day long. You don't want to keep taking them off and putting them back on because every time you touch it, there's the risk of contamination from the outside of the mask and on the inside of the mask. So to be able to wear it comfortably for your whole day, tying it on is usually the most ideal. And different masks, mask makers are doing different things like putting darts on the mask to make them fit a little bit better, or they might insert wire so that you can mold it to the top of the nose. So you can see there's a wide range of different patterns. Some of them will, for example, have pockets on the back so that you can insert additional filters that would be disposed of at the end of the day. So, you know, when you go into these groups, like the Facebook groups that we talked about, like Rosie the Million Mask Challenge, or Washington DC mask sewing, there's people sharing the different patterns, but also sharing their experiences with making them, you know, different techniques to make it go faster, because these can take a long time to make. Also, how to get around the shortages of some of the supplies. So, for example, elastic. This elastic is easier for the casual wearer because you know, for some people who don't want to mess up their hair, tying across the back of your head can be an issue. So, you know, a lot of the ones with elastic can just go around the ear, and it's a lot more convenient for your casual wearer. But elastic is hard to find right now because the people who've been making the masks have been buying up all the stores. So, so that's been a challenge. So this is a pattern that I made up myself because I was having issues with some of the other patterns and wanted to try different things. It has a pocket for a filter in the back, and darts and elastic. So there's a wide range of things that people can do if to fit their needs, their sewing skills. So I encourage people who are interested in working on masks to go online and in any of these sites and try to find what works for them.
So we have Belle back. So I will ask her to tell us about her masks as well. Thank you, Tina, so much, both as speaker, mask maker, and co-host of this program of Diving In. You've always been such an incredible partner. So, Belle, take the stage. What inspired you? You've been making masks for a long time for yourself and other patients. So tell us about how you came to this and what you're achieving.
For me, it was quite logical, almost the same reason that you and I have to wear masks for the remaining of our lives, because we have most of the time a compromised immune system because due to transplant, liver transplant. But mine's was after coming from DC, from meeting you for the first time. It was all those breakout sessions that inspired me. I must do something. I knew I had to do something since coming out of the OR, but what to do? You know, I didn't have an incredible grant to start off from, so it had to be something very humble. I do know, and I remember that for 12 years, a decade and a half, waiting for an organ to become available for me, I had to wear a mask. It was no other choice. But it's a very sad illness when you suffer from liver illness, and I was forced to wear yellow or blue paper mask.
These lovelies.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce one of those to the public so that
lovelies? Yes.
I'm sure everyone that suffers from liver illness is quite familiar with them. The problem with it is
I'm gonna have to admit, I don't wear masks when I don't wear when I'm out, when I'm travel. Now I don't go to a salad bar. I don't often put myself in outside of an airport in a lot of public, you know, situations. But I don't wear a mask. I never have. So this is new for me. So there was this unopened box from January ordering, like I did order gloves and a pulse oximeter and you know, the infrared thermometer and everything. So we have sort of our COVID care station in the house with extra Purell and wipes, which of course I always stock. And I've always, you know, since my transplant and before, you know, washed my hands like I was getting ready for surgery myself, you know, multiple times a day. And that's been my, you know, core, but I never wore a mask. So this is different, even for me, even somebody who's on 3 different types of immunosuppressive drugs. This COVID time seems very difference to
it's
me.
very different. However, I think it also, the fear stems from how long ago you've been transplanted,
Yes.
or how long you had to wait for an organ.
Yes.
For those of us that had to wait over a decade to get one,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to lose this one.
Yeah.
And so we take a lot of precautions, especially if you travel. I think
Mm-hmm.
that the worst place to be is an airplane for a transplantee. And
Mm-hmm.
so having to go and fly to DC to meet you and flying back home to the Caribbean, I got used to wearing masks because I
Mm-hmm.
want to protect this angel organ that I have forever. And so I remember that every time that I cried, my mask broke and left me unprotected on that flight, especially
Mm-hmm.
that flight that I came for meeting
Because
you.
I made you cry so much. No, you touched my heart so much. You touched my heart.
I met so many beautiful people, and that was a bless to me. That was a blessing to be chosen to get one of those grants to be able to go to DC just months after transplant, and I dare to go with my protective mask.
Yes.
But I've noticed that when they broke, I said, "Gosh, could I be putting myself at risk with these masks?" So my intentions were completely different
Mm-hmm.
from COVID. My intentions was actually to bring a smile of happiness and a surprise, that when women opened those boxes and they were waiting for a liver, they would jump out of joy because now people could look at them and say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, how beautiful your mask
Right.
is." So
And
my
they are beautiful. I mean, this seems like too beautiful to wear.
yes, each
I don't want to get it infected.
it takes over 5 hours beating them, because my intentions were actually to bring a smile to their faces and to hide some of the liver imperfections on your skin, but never thinking from 12 years ago to 4 years ago to 2 years ago when my transplant took
Mm-hmm.
place, that this would be happening today. So basically my Etsy shop was actually made to benefit those women that are suffering from PBC and
Mm-hmm.
are on the UNOS list waiting for a transplant. So all my funds go to them to buy their prescription meds, which is Orso, the only thing available to us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's what I did my mask for. The intentions were beautiful, but they were definitely for a different cause. And so what I noticed with the shop was that although my inspiration and the beauty of my beaded mask and spending 4 hours beating them was to
Right.
make liver illness beautiful, a
And you
lot,
do.
a
And you
lot of
do.
a lot of cancer patients on chemo, women
Mm-hmm.
suffering from breast cancer, were
Right.
buying masks, and I said, "Oh my God, I love them." But what my thought came was for people that were like me,
Mm-hmm.
suffering from liver illness. But
But
I
you're
said,
finding that the need is so universal.
they want
Um,
they wanted to
and
feel beautiful. They had no
right,
hair. They were going to chemo, and they had a fragile immune system just like
right.
us. But now, this month, it changed from my cancer patients to my transplant patient. It
Mm-hmm.
changed to healthy, gorgeous looking
Right.
American that
Everybody is just like us now. Everybody is concerned about the state of their immune system and the potential to get a life-threatening infection. So,
oh my God, it's really funny because I wanted to save my people, my liver family, my
mhm.
liver community, and then all of a sudden I have all these gorgeous young people. No, I need one, and I said, "What do you need this one for? You are
But
perfectly healthy."
can we though draw some strength from that and like this opportunity here to draw more attention to the work that you have been doing and will continue to do for the liver community so that you have more resources to be able to do it and to serve other patients. That's what was my purpose in reaching out to give you the platform of GLI Live, and why I've been so excited about having you as part of the Advanced Advocacy Academy, because you have taken your experience and poured such passion and purpose into it. But how can we support you and the Etsy shop, Belle's Little Liver? You also make jewelry. I should have worn it today. The gorgeous liver necklace that you made me, which is so detailed and fine. You have these fantastic cards that you send it with of the liver, and you've made it, so beautiful. So we want to be able to take to meet this moment, yes, but also to help sustain you, because there are patients that will need you and benefit from this, far after we have treatments and a vaccine, and COVID is hopefully a very distant memory.
Yes, yes. As hard as it sounds, and such difficult and sad times, one thing beautiful that has come out of this is to make people realize what we go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been wearing masks since I was diagnosed for a decade and a half. So for me, wearing masks, it's just kind of a part of my attire.
Mm-hmm.
But I now realize people are understanding how I feel when I
Right.
have to wear these. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people on a flight, they run away like I had the plague or I have Ebola.
Well, and
No,
that may be normalized now, and
they don't want.
so
They
I
didn't want.
think that, when you travel to many different countries, particularly throughout Asia, you see everybody wearing a mask.
And it's
Perhaps it was
normal.
for the pollution or for hygiene, or whatever. But one of the explanations that I heard was that they don't want to stigmatize people who may be sick. So if everyone wears a mask, you don't get that effect of people running away if you're wearing a mask as if you have the plague or something.
Isn't that
Something like
beautiful?
that.
I felt sometimes so depressed when they were running away from me on a flight, and once I had to say, you shouldn't run away from me. I'm running away from you guys because I don't want to lose my liver. But now it has come finally to an understanding of social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you're not only protecting yourself, but you're also protecting people like us who have a fragile
Right.
immune system. And so I think it's just love. For me, it's just love. These are masks of love, respect. Some people are not that lucky to
Mm-hmm.
have a very healthy system. But another thing that I found really beautiful that has happened with this tragedy is that people are not only buying their own beautiful beaded masks that I make. Anyone can make masks. Mines were just to bring a smile on the face of women through their sadness. But I've noticed I put a donation button
Mm-hmm.
to donate a very inexpensive, basic plain mask without beading
Mm-hmm.
to another person that was suffering from.
Great.
So I see women that are perfectly healthy young women, and they buy their own mask because they want a beautiful mask to wear with their outfit. Some are going to weddings and they have to wear them.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, gosh, it's so nice to have this button because now I feel so good that I can do something. I always
Yes.
wanted to donate something, but I wanted to donate for a great cause.
Right.
And so that it just fills my heart.
There you go. See, I think you're giving people an opportunity to support and give. And, Tina, that's what has been driving you to contribute to the community. This is not your day job. You're a high-powered attorney by day, seamstress by night. But Tina, you've been making this contribution to the community in this way that has been so impactful. But how do you connect to the hospitals? How do you get masks to people? Because you don't want to leave your house too many times or have too many contacts or endanger yourself or your family. So how do you get the masks to people?
Well, through some of the organizations that have come up and organized around DC, for example, I'm working with the Washington DC mask sewers, and I'm a drop-off point for my area. And they are in communication with a lot of area hospitals and organizations, and they'll put out a call for, we need 50 masks, and people will get together and make the masks, donate them. I also have a lot of friends who are doctors, and so a lot of them have reached out to me personally and told me of their needs, and I've tried to meet those. The midwives that have delivered my babies, they've reached out to me. So, there's a real network that's being utilized to try to identify and meet that need.
So we'll certainly put the different Facebook group links so people who want to be able to sew their own masks and contribute to these efforts can connect to those. But one question that I've had and that others have had is how do you clean these masks? So Tina, you make cloth masks. How do you clean those? And then Belle, I'm going to come to you for your very elaborate silk and velvet masks. How do you keep those clean? So Tina, how do you clean the masks and keep them for reuse?
The masks that I made are 100% cotton. Some of them might be a cotton poly blend, but most of them they're cotton, so they're completely washable. So you can put them in the laundry. COVID is pretty vulnerable to soap,
Yes.
So
It
if
has a
you wash,
lipid shell, and so, which is a sort of fat-based cell, and so the soap dissolves that shell and leaves the virus vulnerable.
exactly. So, you don't have to boil them. You
Thank
don't have
God.
to soak them in bleach. It's not that hardy, but, wash them daily after you use them. I will wash them in soap and water, hand wash them, because I'm not doing a load of laundry every day. And so wash it in hot water and soap, give it a good lather, and then set it out overnight to dry. And that, you know, I guess that works for me. I don't feel sick.
My doctor's office, and we hope you stay healthy too. My doctor's office, which is passing out masks, they give you a little paper bag to put your mask in to sort of keep it between uses. So Belle, for the mask that you've made out of such lovely materials, to make sure that even if you have overactive immune systems or symptoms like we've had, you can still put something that's touching your face and is sensitive to that. How do you keep these gorgeous masks?
Since they were designed for a different purpose,
Mm-hmm.
most of my fabric blends have to be pure blends, silk,
Mm-hmm.
cotton, and velvet, because most of us suffer from pruritus, which
Mm-hmm.
makes our skin, everything itch.
Yeah.
The plain ones are perfectly to wash. The beaded ones, I don't ask them to put them in. I ask everyone for their lifetime, so that they last
Mm-hmm.
longer, is to soak them. Once you
Okay.
soak them, all the microbes would be out, and
Mm-hmm.
to lay flat dry, never to
Mm-hmm.
use a dryer on
Right.
any fabrics, because they are more gentle ones. But I also have in the shop mask case, and these
Okay.
mask case, there's clear ones that you can actually store 3 beaded masks, and
Mm-hmm.
there's one flat that you can put 1 paper mask, and so they're always protected. And because most of us have to live with that kind of conditions, we place them in our handbag, and they're perfectly fine there.
Okay.
Before this virus, most of our masks, you didn't have to wash that often, because
Mm-hmm.
most of my masks have a little pocket for the filters. And
Mm-hmm.
so basically what we changed often were the filters.
Okay.
However, because of the imperfections of our skin with liver illness, some of us use makeup. And when
Mm-hmm.
the makeup goes on the black, on the
Mm-hmm.
white filter, it gets very dirty and
Mm-hmm.
ugly. And sometimes detergent doesn't take makeup that easy. So
Right.
I'd say, a bar of body soap is actually works better with makeup than does laundry detergent. So
Okay.
some women, I ask them, if you wear much makeup or base,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to soak with something gentle like Caress, or
Mm-hmm.
any gentle body soaps, than it is to wash them with laundry detergent.
Okay.
And in some cases, a lot of them suffer from um, itch in the skin or imperfections, and I would say use a very gentle cleanser to wash them. And I don't generally say wash them, but soak
Mm-hmm.
them. Once you
Okay.
soak them, most of that will go away. These are different times, and I had to adjust the way of
Mm-hmm.
making some of them, because of what's going on, and that most of the people that are buying them are not really transplant patient, like what was my hope at the beginning.
Right.
So you have to change with
Don't
times.
be
And
afraid of being so much more. When I created the Global Liver Institute 6 years ago,
uh-huh.
I couldn't have even envisioned that we would be doing programs in 22 countries, and or that even a few weeks ago starting this GLI live, that we'll be reaching tens of thousands of people every week with this information. So don't limit yourself, don't limit your vision, don't limit your impact.
Yeah.
Just accept the grace that you are bestowing on others. It's certainly a lesson I try to keep at heart. But
You
I
have only
love
one of my masks, but I need one of Tina's masks. I love that red one. You see, it's so funny. Like, people think this is a competition. No way. I mean, it's like everyone. When I looked at her mask, I said, "Oh my God, I need one of those."
Well, I think for those of us who'd be wearing them for a long time, having an assortment is a good thing. So, but I wanted to end on the point that you made, Belle, that wearing a mask certainly making a mask are acts of love. But wearing the masks are actions of love, for your neighbor, your family members, for people who are immunocompromised, that you may not even be recognized. You know, Belle and I, you couldn't tell that we have been as sick as we are, and that, you know, continue to be immunosuppressed. So there are people everywhere who need this protection, and so it really is an act of love to wear this mask. And so we'll continue to support the mask makers. Tina, yes, please, get a last minute.
Really important message,
Yes.
which is that, you know, yes, I'm making these masks because I really want to offer protection to people that I love in my life and the people who are doing such important work. But for most of us, and this was stressed to me by people who I know who are doctors, most of us don't know how to wear masks correctly. We're not workers. We are not ingrained in our heads how to in the most effective and proper way. And so it's really, really important when you're talking about acts of love, social distancing is still the most important thing that you can. Masks are handmade. They may be handmade with love, but if you don't use them correctly, then it's not going to be a perfect barrier to infection. People still touch their faces. They may not, they may put them on backwards. So it's important, yes, wear the mask. It's an important signaling for people to understand these are different times. We need to be careful and around each other, but social distancing is still the most important thing. Masks really add to that, but it doesn't mean that you can just go out and touch people. and
That's right.
That's a really important message I want to leave with people.
Thank you, Tina. So yes, masks are one part of this solution, along with social distancing. I like calling it physical distancing because I hope we stay socially connected, even if we're 6 feet apart or more from each other. They're part of frequent hand washing and, you know, cleansing different surfaces, whether it's in stores or your home or elevator buttons or anything that is frequently touched. You know, the Global Liver Institute will continue to advocate that on a nationwide basis, and this is across various countries, that nations and public health entities provide you know, all the parts of personal protective equipment, all the PPE that our frontline workers need, that employers of businesses that are open, our grocery stores and post offices, and that they provide PPE for their employees so that those essential workers can stay safe as they allow the rest of us to stay at home. And so our advocacy in those areas will continue, as well as our support of activists like Tina and Belle. And so thank you so much for joining us today, and for I look forward hoping to have you join us next Wednesday, noon Eastern Daylight Time, on Facebook or on the Global Liver Institute website or on Facebook at any time. Thank you so much, and stay safe, stay well, stay connected, stay healthy. Thank you so much, everyone.